As I tore open the sealed envelope, my hands were trembling. The lab report inside stared back at me in bold letters. Not a match. My 2 children weren't mine. I froze, staring at the words, feeling the room spin. She sat across the kitchen table, pretending to sip her coffee, her phone idly scrolling. But I caught the faint smirk she didn't realize I saw. That smirk told me everything. She was far from ready for what I was about to do. The envelope shook slightly in my hand, but I kept my composure. 10 years of marriage, countless dinners, birthdays, and school recitals, and now it all felt like a lie. Every smile, every whispered, "I love you," seemed to echo with betrayal. My chest tightened. How had I missed the subtle signs? I remembered the late nights she claimed were work emergencies, the secretive phone calls she would quickly dismiss, and the occasional unexplained expenses in our shared account. Each seemed small at first, but now, in hindsight, they were glaring clues. Something had been simmering beneath the surface, and I had been blind. Her smirk irritated me, but I stayed still, letting my mind race. I couldn't confront her yet. I needed a plan. I had to confirm the extent of her deceit before making any move. My first step: gather evidence. I started quietly reviewing patterns I had ignored before. She always locked her phone when I entered the room. Texts would vanish as if by magic. I jotted down times, dates, and inconsistencies, creating a silent timeline. She had been careful, but no one is perfect. Small cracks were appearing, and I was watching closely. The stakes were high. Custody of the children, our shared home, and my own dignity all hung in the balance. If I moved too soon, I risked losing control. If I waited too long, she might cover her tracks. Each day became a careful balance of observation and restraint. I hired a private investigator. I needed professional eyes to confirm what I suspected. The investigator began tracking her movements, cross-referencing her stories, and noting patterns I would have missed. It felt invasive, but I had no other choice. This wasn't about vengeance yet. It was about gathering truth. Days turned into weeks, and the pieces started to fit together. Receipts from shops she never mentioned, deliveries at odd hours, and emails sent to someone with a familiar name she would quickly delete. Each small piece added up, painting a picture of a betrayal I had only half feared until now. One afternoon, a missed call from an unfamiliar number caught my attention. She brushed it off as a telemarketer, but I had learned not to trust casual explanations. I began tracking numbers, cross-referencing addresses, and noting inconsistencies in her stories. She had created a web of lies, but I was untangling it thread by thread. Her subtle manipulation was evident in little moments: forgotten anniversaries, repeated excuses, and gifts that didn't align with our family life. One evening, while setting the table for dinner, I casually asked about her day. She hesitated for the first time, her fingers twitching as she sipped her wine. That pause, that tiny flicker of discomfort, confirmed what I had been piecing together. The investigation intensified. I checked public records, monitored social media cues, and traced the digital breadcrumbs she unknowingly left. Each detail I gathered built a clearer image of the truth. I was patient, knowing that the final revelation would need to be undeniable. Then it happened. The floral shop receipt. She had sent a bouquet to another man on my child's birthday. My stomach turned, but I kept it calm. This was the proof I needed. The betrayal wasn't casual. It was deliberate, calculated, and ongoing. I didn't confront her immediately. I waited, letting her continue her normal routines while I documented everything meticulously. Screenshots, receipts, hidden notes. I collected them all, ensuring that nothing could be dismissed or denied later. I was preparing not for an emotional explosion, but for a controlled and undeniable revelation. Even in mundane moments, I observed. When she left for a grocery run, I noticed she didn't return from where she claimed. A quick check via the investigator confirmed she was elsewhere. My plan was forming. Patience, evidence, and timing. These were my weapons. By the end of the week, I had everything lined up. Each piece of evidence fit neatly together, creating a damning story she couldn't erase. I sat at the kitchen table, envelope and receipts before me, and exhaled slowly. She had no idea how much I knew, nor how deliberate my next moves would be. The envelope sat on the counter, A cold, unforgiving reminder of the truth I had feared. The DNA test, the floral receipt, the hidden messages, all proof that my children were not biologically mine. Her betrayal wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate. I had been blindsided, but now, every move I made would be calculated, precise, and unyielding. She was not ready for what came next. I reviewed every single piece of evidence again, laying them out in front of me. The lab report, the time-stamped emails, the messages she thought I'd never see, and the florist receipt dated the day of my child's birthday. Each item struck like a hammer, a silent declaration of her deceit. My anger simmered, but I held it in check. This wasn't about screaming or confrontation. It was about control, precision, and ensuring she could not manipulate the outcome. I contacted my lawyer, explaining the situation calmly and methodically. Custody and property rights had to be safeguarded. The lawyer advised patience, documenting everything meticulously. Every text, receipt, and discrepancy became evidence, part of a legal and personal strategy. She may have thought she was clever, but she had left too many traces. Then came the timed receipt drop, the moment that would anchor the story and maximize retention. I carefully reviewed the florist receipt alongside the DNA report. Both were time-stamped and undeniable. I visualized the audience's reaction. First disbelief, then tension, then the slow, satisfying understanding of how meticulous planning and observation exposed the betrayal. Her calls began to flood my phone that evening. I ignored them. She texted, begging, explaining, even attempting to manipulate with guilt. But I remained composed. The more she tried to explain, the clearer the trap I had set became. Each word from her mouth, each desperate plea, only confirmed the depth of her miscalculation. She had underestimated me. I watched her struggle to maintain a semblance of normalcy at home, but the cracks in her demeanor were visible. She no longer held the upper hand. The evidence was undeniable, and she could not talk her way out of it. I let her panic quietly, observing her unravel while keeping my distance. The confrontation I planned was deliberate. I did not storm into a dramatic scene. I waited for the perfect moment, presenting the evidence calmly and factually. I know about the affair. I know who the children belong to biologically. I have all the proof, I said, my voice steady, leaving no room for argument. Her face drained of color. She realized immediately she had lost control. Her regret was subtle but undeniable. She whispered apologies, tried to justify, but I did not engage. There was no satisfaction in argument or recrimination, only in the assurance that I had regained control. The balance of power had shifted completely. Throughout this process, I maintained stability for the children. Their lives remained as undisturbed as possible. My goal was not to destroy, but to assert dominance and protect what mattered most. Every choice I made was measured. Legal steps, financial safeguards, and careful documentation ensured she could not erase her actions. I reflected on the weeks of observation and investigation. Every seemingly small inconsistency she had overlooked, every secret phone call, every lie she had assumed I would never uncover. All of it had led to this moment. The DNA test was not just a report. It was the key that unlocked the truth, the lens through which everything became clear. Finally, I ensured her accountability. Legally, financially, and socially, she faced consequences she had not anticipated. My revenge was silent, yet absolute. I didn't need to yell or humiliate her publicly. The control, the evidence, the consequences, they spoke louder than any outburst could. In the quiet aftermath, I felt a mixture of relief and lingering pain. The children remained untouched, shielded from the chaos. My dignity, once at risk, had been reclaimed. Her betrayal had been exposed, and my response had been executed with precision. She had underestimated the resolve of a person pushed to the edge by deceit, but I had emerged stronger, composed, and in control. I left her to reflect on her actions, knowing that the consequences were irreversible. She had gambled with my trust and family, and now the law, evidence, and reality had delivered justice without my need for drama. The power of preparation and careful observation had created a finality she could not escape. As I closed the file on the DNA report, I felt a strange clarity. Betrayal had been revealed. Revenge had been served silently. and the family I still cherished could continue forward with truth and security. She had learned too late that underestimating someone who observes, plans, and acts quietly can be fatal. Would you have handled it differently? Tell me in the comments, and stay tuned. Next, I'll share a story where another DNA test shattered an entire family, leaving no room for lies or manipulation.